I have dedicated my professional career to the study and control of arthropods.
Hello. Today I want to talk about what, in my opinion, is one of the most important books of recent years. That's Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion. I don't have my copy. I can't find it to save my life. Otherwise, I'd hold it up for you all to see. The reason I want to talk about this book is, even though there's been a lot of talk about it, I think I still think it's really, really important, and I want to express kind of what I think to be a somewhat unique take on it. I hope, or at least it's unique to me. I have to keep referring to my notes. This is kind of abstract a little bit, or at least my way of thinking about it's abstract. So maybe I want to make sure I get it right so that I don't come off like a babbling idiot. So one of the things I want to say about it, very obviously, many of the theists that read this, of all different kinds, were very offended, and that's understandable. He attacked religion with no nice words whatsoever. He essentially attempted to massacre religion and all religious followers as well. And in that he was really, really harsh. But the thing that surprised me, I thought was surprising, was a number of agnostic and atheist people that I know also were kind of offended by it. Not in their atheism or their belief system, but they found it to be bigoted and harsh, saying that he had no right to cut down religion, that it's people's freedom and right, and he had, that saying that he was just expressing a very ignorant and bigoted attitude. And I can see where they're coming from on that. I don't essentially agree with all of that, but I see where they're coming from. And one of the things I want to make sure I make clear is that I don't for one second hold everything Dawkins says to be gospel truth. Okay, in fact, there's a lot of the book that I thought, I see what you're saying, and maybe you're right, maybe you're not, but I don't really hold to be true myself. One of the most important of those is the fact that I actually like religion. I recognize that there's a lot of harm. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ignorant of the harm of religion, and I don't believe in it myself. But I also see that I think that human beings have evolved with religion for so long in our history that it's tied up into our identities as people. I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. I think there's a lot of the artwork, music. There's a lot of beautiful things about religion. There's a lot of ugliness. I'm not ignoring that. I work with Native American students, and I see a lot of wisdom. I see a lot of identity in their belief systems and in their religions as well. And so I don't think it's all bad. I think that maybe it would be better in a perfect world if we improved theism, to pick the parts of theism that do have beauty and not harm. But anyway, I might be wrong on that. Who knows? I could be completely and totally wrong. I do recognize that Dawkins, when you crunch the numbers, Dawkins is probably right about weighing the harm versus the good. He's undoubtedly correct. So I'm okay if I'm incorrect on it, but I'm still going to hold that I do find some beauty in religion, and I would think it would be a tragedy to see it completely abolished. I think it would be a real tragedy to see it go by the wayside. So anyway, but one of the things in reading God Delusion, and as I was reading some of his criticisms, I couldn't help but think that maybe he's trying to make a broader point, that he's wording himself in such a way, not that he's not, I know he's an atheist and I know he's not pro-religion, but the way he was wording it, his antagonistic take on it, I wonder if it wasn't purposeful. Not to be a jerk and not to be mean or all the other things that he's been accused of, but maybe he's trying to make a point. And this is what I took out of it when I got out of the book when I was reading it. Okay, remember my last video I made was Top 10 Reasons Christianity is Wrong, which was a joke. It was satire on the arguments that creationists make about the theory of evolution, meaning it was filled with logical fallacies. The attempt was that somebody, possibly a creationist, reading it would say all of those fallacies, all of that falsehood, you're completely wrong on it, and then say, wait, maybe I've been making equally fallacious arguments against evolution. Who knows? That was the intent. Probably failed, but it was the intent. And in reading The God Delusion, I wonder if he's not trying to make a statement about the intolerance of religion. And I'm trying to explain myself here. I recognize that's probably sounds ridiculous. But one of the things, okay, I read a lot of pro-Christian, pro-theist apologetics works whenever I have the chance. I like, that's one of my hobbies, is to read these, and I like to sit down with the book. A good Bible. I use the Oxford Annotated Bible, and I'll usually have a copy of King James, or if that's the version of the Bible that the author of the apologetics work uses. And then I'll sit online, and I'll often Google or wiki or look up on a good Bible concordance to look up words and to figure out, the context of what they mean, because I think it's kind of important to look at these things and study them, because I want to know what the author really meant. I want to make sure that what the author meant, and then what the author is claiming the Bible says is true. I want to see that he's not just making a statement that has no validity, or that he's making a statement that has validity. I want to understand that. Ideas are really important, I think. I do believe that. So I try to study these things, but one of the things that I see when I'm reading these things is that I can disagree. In fact, I more often than not, completely disagree with every single point the author is making, which I know is kind of harsh itself, but what can you say? I don't, I find that it's historically inaccurate, that there's mistranslations, or that he's choosing an interpretation that doesn't have any contextual meaning. And to the best of my knowledge, I'm not a theologian. I try my best to understand this. But anyway, I try, and I don't agree with it. But I notice that it's academic. My disagreement is purely I don't agree, and then I go on to the next chapter. I don't get offended. I don't get angry about it. I don't feel cheated by the author. I just read it and go, I disagree with you. And the question comes up, why wouldn't I be offended by that? Why shouldn't I be? Because really what it comes down to, in many, if not all of these to some extent, the central message is they are taking this complex thing that is the Christian Bible, and they're synthesizing it down to what they believe to be, here are the proofs of it. And then they usually cite some verse that states that the fools and the scoffers, or something like that, with the implication being, if you don't believe what is clearly in front of you, you're not only going to die, but you're going to die and be tortured. You're going to be burned alive for all of eternity. It's essentially, it's a big bully threat. This is it. Believe this or else. And that's a pretty offensive message by anybody's standard. I don't think you can whitewash that to be anything other than a very offensive message. If I went out to my mailbox and I found a note in my mailbox from my neighbors that said, next election year we want to see Republican signs or you're going to have the crap kicked out of you, I would immediately call the police. I would be deeply offended. That's a threat. It's telling me what to believe, or telling me that if I don't behave in a certain way, they're going to beat me up. Even if they themselves say, well, we weren't going to beat you up, but somebody we know is going to beat you up, it's still just as offensive. Likewise, the Christian message, even at its most innocuous, has a certain element to theists. To atheists, that we should take. At the very least, the Christian message of believe or eternal punishment. I know that there are some Christian beliefs that don't include that, or don't emphasize that as being as important as other aspects of it, and I have great respect for that. But when they have this threatening message, so we should be offended by it. And I think, why am I not offended? Why don't I get offended when I read Josh McDowell or some of these other works with this message in there? And I realize, you know what? Because I've been raised with it, so I've been desensitized to how actually brutal this message is. And I think, we've been raised that the central message is innocuous enough, and maybe it's not so innocuous. And I think maybe, just maybe, Richard Dawkins was trying to emphasize that point. He was trying to be, as an atheist, as harsh and intolerant as theists are towards atheists, with the hope that maybe a theist reading it would think, is this how we sound? Is this how we come off? Is this what we want to get across as our message, that we're this much burn or believe or burn, or is that really what we're trying to say? And just maybe I'm wrong, but I'd love to discuss it. So please respond. Text comments, video responses are great. I would love to hear, in fact, especially a theist viewpoint on this, especially some of the more liberal theists, who I think really would get maybe better understand what I'm trying to say. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.